So, a massive diplomatic firestorm has just erupted between the United States and some of its closest NATO allies. And it was all sparked by a really unexpected move from President Trump about Greenland. Believe it or not, this one issue has pushed a major cornerstone of Western security right to the breaking point. And people are not holding back on this one. One commentator called it the biggest fracture in the relationship since the Suez Crisis back in 1956. Now, if you know your history, bringing up Suez, that signals a really deep, almost historic rupture in the alliance. This is serious stuff. So the big question is, how did we even get here? How on earth did a remote, icy island suddenly become the center of a crisis that's threatening the entire Western alliance? Let's get into it. Okay, so this whole thing really blew up when President Trump released what he said were private messages from European leaders. And this move just pulled the curtain back on all their behind-the-scenes worries and diplomatic scrambling. And these leaked messages, wow, they really paint a picture, don't they? You've got French President Emmanuel Macron being super blunt, just saying, "I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland." Meanwhile, NATO's Secretary General is clearly trying to play firefighter, committing to finding a way forward. As you can imagine, the president's threats and those leaked messages set off a huge global reaction. But not everybody responded the same way. In fact, two very different camps popped up almost immediately. So on one side, you had leaders like Macron and the head of NATO trying to calm things down, pushing for more talks. But on the other side, you had Denmark, which, remember, governs Greenland, and they took a much, much harder line. We're talking reinforcing troops and putting out some very stark warnings. And that warning from Denmark, it was about as blunt as you can get. A Danish official put it in the simplest, most chilling way possible. An American invasion would mean war between two NATO allies. I mean, that statement alone just shows you how dangerously high the tensions had climbed. Now, while this whole international storm was brewing, the messages coming out of Washington were, well, they were all over the place. It honestly seemed like two completely different strategies were at play inside the administration. You had Speaker Mike Johnson trying to do some serious damage control, really downplaying the whole thing. He called it a little rift and insisted his whole goal was to calm the situation. That was the official diplomatic story they were telling their allies. But, and this is a huge but, at the very same time, President Trump was doing the complete opposite. While his speaker was talking about calming things down, the president was threatening France with 200% tariffs on wine and champagne. So one part of the government is holding out an olive branch, while the other is basically sharpening its knives. This kind of contradiction just made everyone wonder what the actual strategy was. Was this chaos intentional? Was there a method to the madness? Well, analysts and strategists started floating a few pretty compelling theories to try and make sense of it all. One idea is that releasing the texts was all about showing that world leaders still have to come to him. Another theory, this is just classic Trump negotiation, using what one person called tough mafia-style tactics to force a better deal. And then there's a third idea, that as a real estate guy, he just literally wants to acquire more territory. So while the rest of the world was trying to figure this out, the whole plan was facing a massive storm of opposition right here in the United States. And it wasn't just coming from his political opponents. Get this, according to CNN polling, a staggering 82% of independent voters, who are a really key group in any election, were against the Greenland plan. It just was not a popular idea with the American public, who, according to one analyst, were basically just asking, Greenland? Why are we even talking about Greenland? But the backlash went way beyond the polls. Some of the sharpest criticism actually came from inside the president's own party, from Republicans who just felt like this was a step way too far. And the criticism from Republicans was severe. Congressman Don Bacon, who was retiring, said that invading an ally is a high crime and misdemeanor, and that he thought it would lead to impeachment. I mean, an impeachment threat from a member of the president's own party over foreign policy, that is an incredibly serious moment. So all of this, the leaks, the threats, the backlash, it's all leading up to a super high-stakes face-to-face meeting at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where all the key players are finally going to have to confront each other. And the mood is incredibly tense. I mean, after a public war of words, all the tariff threats, and the military posturing, reporters on the ground are describing the vibe at the upcoming summit as
pretty frosty. And that might be an understatement.
So as these leaders get ready to meet, some huge questions are just hanging in the air. What's going to happen when they're finally in the same room? Will the economic threats keep flying, or will diplomacy win out? And maybe the most important question of all, can the NATO alliance, the bedrock of Western security for over 70 years, actually survive a fracture this deep? And that leaves us with the ultimate question. Is all of this a brilliant, unconventional negotiation tactic that's going to pay off for the United States? Or is it a reckless gamble that could shatter vital alliances and destabilize the entire world order? The answer might just be decided in a very, very frosty room in Davos.